And also in my African agriculture video and its importance and why we should take agriculture seriously, I'm representing my African roots, the various African nations I have ancestry with. So I show you Sierra Leone, me wearing Sierra Leone jersey. This is also wearing Ghana jersey. And today's 1st July and it's a holiday in Ghana. Ghana, happy Republic Day. Happy 1st July. One love. So we're gonna continue. I'm gonna continue on the video with me just wearing regular clothes and we keep it going. One love. Yeah, so today I'm gonna talk about agriculture in Africa and it's important. Why we should take agriculture seriously and invest into agriculture to help our various African countries' economy. So in this video, I'm just representing as a patriotic African and a patriotic citizen and a patriotic son of the soil. This is what I'm repping now. Greetings, greetings. Mema wuni na achi. Ojeko. Dasuba. Otutuoma. Ekaro. Greetings and a good morning in different indigenous African languages. So today I'm going to talk about agriculture in Africa. And you know, I come from a ancestral line or a bloodline which my forebears or forefathers or ancestors were into agriculture, farming, agriculture, farming, yes. So let me take you back into something interesting that you would like to know. So during the slave trade, when African slaves were brought to the Western Hemisphere or the Western world, working in plantation, the enslaved African already had their farming skills, which they exhibit on the plantation. We had sugarcane plantation, we had coffee plantation, rice plantation, different kind of plantation, cotton plantation, a whole lot. Now, when it comes with a rice plantation, especially enslaved Africans from regions such as Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, they had enough knowledge about rice farming. So the Europeans who enslaved them, they were working on the rice farming. Especially if you go to in America here, when you look at the Carolina area, especially those who were enslaved in the Carolina regions, the North and South Carolina, rice farming was a big thing over there. And enslaved people who were working on the rice plantation were people of Sierra Leone descent, especially from ethnic groups such as the Limba, Timine, Mende. So if you go to the Carolina area, we have a people called Gulagichi. Now the Gulagichi, most of them are descendants from people from Sierra Leone. Some do have Ghanaian ancestry. Those Gulagichi who trace to the Gold Coast area are mostly from Gadangbe, Akan, and Ewe, and Northern Kusasi, Frafra, Mamprusi, Dagomba ethnic group, and those also from the Brights of Benin, Bright of Benin. Bright of Benin, those days, that region was classified as it's either Bright of Benin or Bright of Biafra. And that region, people don't know that the Europeans recorded as Nigeria. So sometimes when people talk about this Biafra issue, for me, I know that I'm not saying I know 100% of the genesis of it, but I understand. I understand when sometimes ethnicity might feel like you can relate to the nationalism. And how Nigeria even came about. it was just a European who named the region Nigeria. You know, Nigeria is not even an African word. You know, even Gold Coast. Gold Coast was a name. Ghana back then was Gold Coast. Gold Coast was a name the European, you know, the Portuguese. The name is Gold Coast. But Ghana is indeed an African word. It originates from the language Bambara Sonike. And the Bambara Sonike, you can find them in the West African regions, especially if you are Mande, which is spelled Mande. Mande. If you're a Mandarin speaking person, the Sonikes, Wangara, those type of folks, they are Mandarin speaking people, you know. So Ghana is a Sonike Bambara word. And in their language, the English translation means warrior king. And back then too, they had empires. They had Mali Empire, Soninke Empire. We had the Ghana Empire. And we had many empires as well. And even when you talk about Guinea, Guinea is an indigenous African word. Guinea is. And Guinea simply means a melanated person. So that's why it makes sense to me. That's why when it comes with Afrocentric stuff, you can see people from Guinea. They really show this Afrocentric stuff, and I can relate it to even Sekou Touré. You see how Sekou Touré is. Mali too is, you know, it's an African word as well, and Mali too, they have these Afrocentric vibes. So one thing to let you know is that the reason why Europeans, when they enslave people, they wanted them to work on plantations, is mostly the African enslaved people had knowledge about farming. And back then, plantation, we can say it was not only like servitude job, but it was also to, you know, they want you to use your skills that you were using back in your various African continents and being enslaved in the Western Hemisphere. They want you to, you know, labor. And I'll tell you this, slavery, if anybody says slavery is fair, I'll tell the person they are lying. It comes with brutality. Enslaved African people being denied certain privileges. And when you end up being the most sellout enslaved person, that's when you receive benefits. When you sell out, especially, that's how we have the field Negro and the, you know, it's so sensitive issue, the house Negro. And in this, if you were if you fall in one of this category and you sell out, sometimes when a master know you are doing his dirty job, his dirty work or dirty job, he start giving you, you know, treatments. No, the enslave, the European who enslave you, he will tell you that you're a lawyer, so he have to start giving you treatment. And I have to tell you this, that when people said African people didn't fight against slavery, I'll tell you, you are lying. And I can tell you this. In Liberia, there's an ethnic group known as Kru. You know, and the Kru people, they fought against slavery. Even in Ghana, there's an ethnic group known as Nzema. And this Nzema ethnic group is where Ghana's first president is from, Kwame Nkrumah. Even there was a time that the governor was insisting that the king of this ethnic group of the Nzema people, known as King Kakuanka, they want Kakuanka to sign a treaty, and he said no, he's not making any deal with a European. So they had to put him also in the dungeon, the Cape Coast dungeon. And also there was a time that they had to even take one of the Ashanti king, King Nana Jima Prempe, also to the dungeon as well, the slave port, because he didn't you know, buy into what the European is about. And I'll tell you this, there were many people who stand against slavery. So when people said Africans didn't fight against slavery, they are lying. Even the Congo region, when they were fighting, when they were enslaving people, the people don't know these facts. There was a group of an ethnic group known as Lumba, and an ethnic group in Congo known as the Lumba people, and those people were able to even stand against European, enslavement. If we talk about people who stand against, it's many. Even people don't know for fact that even in Kenya, you have a warrior queen mother who was from the Kamba region, who stand against slavery in East Africa. People don't know for fact that East African also had their own form of slavery. That's what we call the sub-Saharan slave trade, and that is related to the Arabs. So people don't know this. In the African continent, when it comes to slavery, that is very brutal. It started with the Arabs. People don't know this. So the Arabs started first in what you call the East African region. So that's why if you go to the Middle East, you have a lot of people who are Afro descent. Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait. You find people who are very Arabized in there. People don't know that they are descendants of East Africans who came from regions such as Kenya, Tanzania, all those Rwanda, Burundi, and all those areas. And even in India, there's a people who look like me and you. Like you see how dark I am. When you go to India, there are people who look like me and you, and they are results of slavery. They were enslaved by the Arabs, and other Europeans, and they were known as the Shidi people. Shidi is spelled Siddhi, Siddhi, Shidi, and you can find them in places like Pakistan, India, other places in the Asian place. They have their own language and everything. So back to my topic. I think agriculture is very important when you put this slavery issue aside. The reason why I'm talking about agriculture is there's many things that we can invest that can help our continent, and even before anything else, agriculture was our thing. Most of our ancestors, our grandfathers, our great-grandparents, our great-great-grandparents, for many generations ago, went to agriculture, farming, and it's very important. And in my opinion, you might not agree, I think agriculture is something that we should, value very much, invest into it, that it can help our country. I applaud Burkina Faso for that. Burkina Faso is into tomatoes farming, and at some point they were able to supply tomatoes to Ghana and other African regions, and which is a good initiative. Now I want to say this is that the African government, the whole of Africa, have to start taking agriculture seriously, including Sierra Leone. And Sierra Leone, rice is something that means a lot to us, so we should take rice farming serious, and other forms of agriculture, whatever farming serious in Sierra Leone and the whole of Africa. So I'm going to end my video here. I'm going to say this. Agriculture is our current very important investment that we have to take serious. For a nation to move forward, we have to know what can really work. And in some parts, agriculture is very important, and we can make good use of agriculture in Africa. When we start investing into agriculture and we start having programs to help people into agriculture, it will help. Even look at in Ghana, places like Ghana, Ivory Coast, we have cocoa. You can invest into cocoa. Cocoa is something, cocoa farming, to help the country. And trust me, in many years, Ghana have used cocoa to make our chocolate, and Europe and other places. Something shocking. When I was in Massachusetts, I went to a store, and I was looking at the chocolate. It said made in Ghana. I was shocked. See, so now we have to take things serious. Ghana, Ivory Coast, cocoa is your thing. Take cocoa serious. Many African countries, you guys have what makes you guys, when it comes to agriculture, you guys have what makes you stand out. So African government, I'm pleading with you, and patriots of Africa, I'm all pleading with you to take farming, agriculture very serious. Invest into it, make good use of it. That is also the backbone to contribute to the country's economy. So I'm just a patriotic African, somebody who's loyal to this continent, and at heart, I love the African continent. So in my videos, the first start, you see me wearing Ghana jersey and Sierra Leone jersey. This is out of patriotism and showing love to my country of origin or ancestry. And please support this podcast and subscribe. I've done enough videos so far. I'm not going to shoot any video till next week. So next week, Wednesday, I'm going to shoot a video, another video also. I'm going to talk about the importance of knowing your roots, the importance of an identity. Because sometimes the reason why we are not patriotic enough is we forgot our roots, who we are as a people. So I'm going to do a video on identity, the importance of roots. And then, so that was going to be next week, Wednesday. And then next week, Friday, I'm going to shoot a video on African women revolution, the importance and the need of women to step up to help the African continent take places. There's a saying by a former teacher, and also he's a patriotic African. His name is Agri. He said that when you educate a man, you just educate an individual. But when you educate a woman, you educate, the entire world. Like you educate, meaning if you educate women, he's talking about the influence of women. Why women is important. Why educating women is very important. And for me, when people said women are being looked upon in African society, it's not 100% true. But in some parts, it is true in some sense that, when you're in a culture, when it's patriarch, sometimes that's what happens. And to me, I don't condemn patriarchy. And I'm going to tell you why. Sometimes I don't fully condemn patriarchy. And what I understand about patriarchy, it has to do with masculine men. Understand? But sometimes too, people take patriarchy to a extreme that they disrespect women. They treat women like dogs, like they are not important. That one, I'm against that part. But pretty much, I'm going to be honest with you. Women have been very influential in Africa. If you look at kingdoms, as I said, look at the Ashanti kingdom, we have Yasa and Twa. Look at other kingdoms, you have Mama Yakagbe. You have Queen Nzenga of the Angola, of the Mbundu people, the Mbundu people of Angola. You have a lot of people. You have Harriet Tubman, who was an enslaved African woman from West African regions who was sent to America here. You have somebody like that. You have the Maroons in Brazil and Jamaica, like the importance of the African or African descent woman. So we had many kingdoms. You have in Guinea, you have Indatinyala. Indatinyala stand against the French, telling the French that we are not going to make a deal for you. Guinea belongs to our people and we stand firm. So women have been very influential. And you know something interesting? The late warrior king, or he's a liberator, his name is Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. He wrote a whole book about women's revolution in Africa. So women are very important. Maybe women might not do what some men are doing when it comes to the liberation, but for them voicing out and saying no, that's enough. So women are very important, and we need women to step up in many areas when it comes with fighting for our people and helping Africa rise on its feet. So the influence of women is very needed, and I want people to take women in Africa very serious and start investing into their education. When you see something good can come out of a woman, do not tell her she's a woman. Woman voice is needed and is very important. That's why in my past podcast, you stopped me talking about transforming on the mind. I talk about the wealth of the African woman. Wealth meaning the importance, the value of an African woman. I did a podcast about that issue too. So I believe the African woman, and it's not only I believe, I know for a fact that the African woman is very important, and we need them very much. So even though we educate our male child, let us also educate our daughters, our sisters, our aunties. Every woman is important. As we said, men are important, so are women important. We cannot build an African kingdom or African economy without women influence. Men cannot do it all by themselves. Yes, men are masculine. They think they're on top of the world. Every man do think. They think they are the boss. No, we cannot do it without women. We need women influence. And we know that God have given women strength, and God have given women wisdom that men also can tap into, that can help the Africa economy. And for the agriculture part, I think it's time that we have to start investing. Partner with other African countries who have knowledge about how agriculture can boost a different African countries. Let us do that. Partner with people who have knowledge about agriculture, farmers. Find out for them what is the best way to make agriculture become very useful to the African race and the African people and every African. One love, support this podcast. As always, Uhuru Debele. Ashe. One love, one people, one destiny, one dream, one mission. Let us support this podcast and wait for a new video next week, Wednesday. So next week, Wednesday, is a reminder. I'm doing a video on the importance of identity, roots, and then Friday, I also do another video as well. So please support this podcast. I have stuff to do, so I gotta go. So one love.